Oh, what the hell? It's time for a brand new episode of Gutting the Sacred Cow. It's your buddy Kevin Gootee here. Welp, when one domino falls, the rest fall right after that. Domino number 2 I'm talking about, Vertigo, Alfred Hitchcock's second film done in this podcast, done by none other than newcomer to the show, Chip Chantry from the Rock and Roll Podcast. That's right, Chip Chantry has come on to do Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Who did I get to help me co-host? Well, why not go to the closer himself? Kevin Israel rejoins me to sit in that co-host chair. Hey, gang, thanks so much for hanging out with us every single week. Hope you love the episode. I promise you will. Let's see if Chip can make Vertigo fall out of a church belfry. It's not a schooner, it's a sailboat. Kevin Israel! Name that film.
The last couple, I was like, I don't have it. I didn't even ring a bell, but this one, I know I should know this one.
You're goddamn right you should know this. I'll give you a little hint even, which I never do. You live close to the town that this guy is from, who made the film.
Oh, is this a Kevin Smith movie?
I'm not saying
It's
else.
definitely a Kevin Smith movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Clerks, but I don't remember it in Clerks.
Mallrats.
Mallrats. Said by a man named Willem. I always remember that. It's so bizarre that his name is Willem.
That's the second Willem, what we know, because Willem Dafoe being numero uno.
Yes. Yep.
Kevin Gootee, Kevin Israel guest hosting again, and we got Chip Chantry joining us for the first time in this fine podcast. Chip, how goes it, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to eviscerate a cow tonight.
Ooh, and certainly you did choose a
Pick
cow.
a winner.
I would say, I mean, look, this is the film he has chosen, by the way, not to bury the lead, is Vertigo, 1958. This is the second Hitchcock film we've done in about a month. So I thought that was ironic that it took this long for the Hitchcock films to get noticed, and now the dominoes are starting to fall. As I said, 1958. By the way, welcome to Gutting the Sacred Cow, the best movie review / movie debate podcast out there, where our guests are invited to pick a film they find overrated or hate and try to convince us to see their argument. But here is the twist. Widely beloved, critically acclaimed, or a financial success are the criteria. Why do I bring that up? Because the YouTube algorithm needs a summary at the very beginning of every episode. That's why. I read that somewhere. Yeah.
Huh. All right.
1958 Vertigo, as I mentioned, a budget at the time of $2.5 million, a box office haul of $7.3 million. Turn that into 2023 money. 2023 money, $26 million budget. Box office haul, $76.2 million. They called it a bomb at the time. I don't think this is bomb. Do you?
I mean, they made their money back and they made a profit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
IMDb, boys, 1 through 10 with decimal points. I go to the guest first. Chip Chantry, what do you think Vertigo has accrued on the old IMDb?
This is a scale of 1 to 10, right?
Yes, with decimal
With
points.
decimals.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go 8.5, 8.5.
8.5. Kevin Israel.
8.9.
8.2.
8.2. Wow. All right.
Everything on IMDb is like 7 or 7.5. I was surprised to see it above that.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, fellas, 1 through 100. Kevin Israel, you know this drill better than anybody. Critics, Rotten Tomatoes score is
92.
Chip Chantry.
I'll go. That's right in the ballpark. I'll go 93.
One of you has dead nuts on and has won both showcases, and that man is Kevin Israel. Come on down.
Well done, Kev.
Now to Chip for the audience Rotten Tomatoes score. Same scale.
I'm gonna stick with my guns and go 93.
93, Kevin Israel.
I'm going to go lower and go 80.
One of you is dead nuts on, and that man is Chip Chantry.
Oh, wow.
Come on down.
Wow, I'm surprised that audience score is this high.
People love it. People love it.
In my research of reviews, he is right. People love this. 5 fun facts. Hitchcock came up with the initial seed of the idea that became the iconic Vertigo zoom when he was making Rebecca. However, at the time, the technology wasn't there and he couldn't achieve it He initially got the idea to do a disorienting mix of tracking in and zooming out when he fainted at a party, and his vision did a similar thing. Chip's doing that same thing with his camera. Was that Vertigo zoom all that? He makes it sound like he was waiting for the technology to catch up, like Cameron was doing for Avatar.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. When we were watching this last night, I said to Ashley, I was like, this was definitely mind-blowing special effects at that time. People are probably like, oh my God, I threw up when I saw him fall, you know. Now it's just like Chip just did it with his fucking MacBook.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And with the different flashing colors throughout.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hello.
It's like when when we saw the Money for Nothing video, the Dire Straits video. When we were kids. We're like, this is the future.
Yeah. And also,
take me on.
I guarantee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guarantee those flashing lights definitely gave many people a seizure.
Oh yeah, but they didn't know why back then.
Yeah,
it was just like they're weak.
Yeah.
And then the Japanese saw this and goes, let's make game shows that do that. Number 2, years after Vertigo hit theaters and became a classic, Hitchcock admitted James Stewart was miscast in the lead role as he was too old and he should have considered a younger actor. He was embittered at the critical and commercial failure of this movie in 1958. He blamed this on Stewart for, quote, looking too old, quote, end quote, to attract audiences anymore. Hitchcock never worked with Stewart again, perhaps previously one of his favorite collaborators. Stewart was 49, Kim Novak 24,
and it showed.
It's 100. That is one of my main points today.
The tree ring that Scotty and Madeline visit was destroyed in the 2020, I don't know, it's CZU lightning fire complex, who cares, that swept through the big basin, which stood in for Muir Woods. Oh, we couldn't see when the Magna Carta was signed anymore. Darn.
I know.
The Battle of Hastings? Come on.
Hastings? We don't know about that.
Kim Novak already had a reputation for being difficult. At 24? Really? You had earned that kind of a credo?
You didn't know any difficult 24-year-olds? Because all the ones I knew were.
I don't mean that. I mean the 24-year-old actresses back in the 50s. I don't think that they were getting opinionated when the male-dominated film industry wasn't giving two shits what women thought. That's what I thought was a little bit surprising. She was being difficult, so it was not a surprise when she showed up to work for one day. She was striking for more money from her home studio, Columbia Pictures, who was paying her $1,250 a week, even though they were receiving $250,000 for her loan out and one more movie. The ploy worked, and Novak got a raise. Good for her. That is unjust.
Get your bag.
Get that money, honey. Number 5, the word vertigo is spoken only how many times in the movie, fellas?
Is it once?
Israel?
None. Do they ever say it? I don't remember ever hearing it.
They do. When Scotty at the beginning says it to Midge, I have vertigo. That's what he says.
I thought he says I have acrophobia.
He had, in addition, that's right after he says I have vertigo.
And I think it gives him vertigo. Yeah, because this movie should have been called Arachnophobia. I think it should have been called Arachnophobia and been about spiders, just like that John Goodman movie.
I was just gonna say
I would have rather watched that movie.
Yes.
Someone's tipping his hand too early.
Yeah, I know. Better. Sorry. No, it's a great movie. I loved it.
What a douche. Quotes. You shouldn't keep souvenirs of a killing. You shouldn't have been that sentimental. Other than that, that is it. This film is bone dry of quotes. I will go to Kevin Israel. Any quotes jump out at you?
The only one that jumped out at me, and it wasn't because I'm going to run around saying it, but she says, "I've been picked up before." And I was like, is that like going to the powder room and getting $50 to go to the powder room?
Yes. Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Because was she saying that she was a hooker? Because I don't know what other.
Why else would she
have said that?
I mean, picked up as in picked up one night stands. Picked up as you mentioned. Hooker.
I didn't know what she was alluding to, but he got it.
That was very opaque, but you're right. He did. He was like, "Oh, I got you." Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Chip, any quotes?
I think my favorite was when she falls out of the tower.
That was more believable.
Yeah. Thank you.
Especially when the body fell. We'll get to that.
Oh yeah.
Let's go to Ask a Gutter at Eric4953. Okay, Chip Chantry, do you like any Hitchcock movies?
This is going to be a main theme in my my presentation tonight. I love Hitchcock. I am a huge Hitchcock fan. I like the favorites, the classics that I'll get into, but yes, I am a huge fan of his, and I just think that this movie needs to be taken down a number of pegs.
Next one is Hitchcock overrated. Same guy, Eric4953.
I think he's lauded for a lot. I will say this. I love him. I think he was revolutionary. Everybody says he was such a genius, and he was like, every shot was perfect and everything's wonderful. I have a little thing. Here's a little thing overrated. In the movie The Birds, which I love. Everybody says it was a great movie and this is how wonderful he is. If he was realistic on that town would have been covered in bird shit. Not a drop of bird shit in Bodega Bay at all. It would have been caked in white, and he totally missed that. So for that, yes, he is overrated, but I do love him.
Next final part question of that. And finally, Vertigo by Hitchcock or U2?
Ooh. Uno, dos, tres.
Hello.
Torse.
Hola.
Hello.
All right.
I'm gonna have to go with U2 on this one. I mean, it's like the last gasps of them doing some music that I listen to.
The song is 4 minutes. The film is over 2 hours. You decide.
Yes.
Next question. At Dave Quist, literally hanging in my office, the poster of Vertigo. At Mike Price, our buddy for The Simpsons. He wants to know, Chip, what kind of wood was Kim Novak's wooden performance? Oak, pine, or cedar?
Man, it was just... It was like that fake fiberboard is what it was.
You mean wood. IKEA nonsense?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Instead of getting 3D glasses, you got an Allen wrench when you walked in the theater. At the big Nick J, ask Chip Chantry if he at least enjoys the Mel Brooks spoof High Anxiety.
You know what? I remember seeing High Anxiety in high school before I ever saw Vertigo, so didn't get the reference, and it was so long ago. I don't remember. And now that I've really dug more into Vertigo, I should rewatch, because who doesn't love Mel Brooks?
Kevin Gootee.
Spaceballs is overrated as all hell.
Oh, not.
Yep.
That's a
overrated.
Childhood classic, but yeah.
Well, grow up and you'll find out it doesn't hold up. Thanks. Next one. Okay. We are now on to at Lord Snurts. This dude destroys these questions. I got to say, Snurts, my favorite question asker. Here's why. He asks you, in another universe, Madeline Elster becomes a Bond girl. What is her new sexy name?
Bora Bora, because she's a giant boar. That is her superpower. That is her thing. She just bores James Bond and
tell me
him into sleep. And
tell me she has a twin or adopted Japanese sister named Tora.
There you go.
I saw that question on Twitter and I immediately thought Snazzy McSnooze.
All right.
I don't know why.
The living mannequin.
A lot of Ambien.
Yeah.
Next, at Joe Loves Chem. If a director makes 5 Hitchcockian films in a year, is that a Ruthian feat?
I mean, it's a feat of something. So I'm going to say, yeah.
Cool.
I guess so. Yeah.
That's going to close the Ask a Gutter. So there we have it. We got our questions out there. Chip's got his arguments loaded up. But before we get there, don't forget to leave us that 5-star rating, 2 or 3 sentence review. You know we love that. You know I screenshot my favorite ones on all podcast platforms. guttingthesacredcow@gmail.com if you want to advertise with us. And, of course, guttingthesacredcow.com. And by God, no one listens to the end of podcasts. So my guest, Chip Chantry, what are you up to and where can we find you?
I would love for people to go find me at Chip Chantry, ChipChantry, at Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, and chipchantry.com for all my upcoming dates and all that stuff. I got some albums out there, too, that you can find wherever you get your comedy albums.
I know the hot spot is kevinisrael.com, but if you have anything else to tack onto it, my friend, please let this be your opportunity to do so.
Thanks for doing my plug for me. I appreciate that. Yeah, kevinisrael.com. My album's out there. Kevin Israel on all your platforms, your social media yapping sites.
Yeah. It is. That's factual. And now, Kevin Israel, why don't we just have our virginal gutter lead him right on down that path of flowers so he can come in here and let's see if he's got it on the first take. And that, of course, is to gut the sacred.
Gut the
Uh,
sacred cow.
Cow.
Mike,
You're on
my
delay.
connection just went unstable.
No, you don't say.
Sorry.
I was like, wait a minute. He's
Sorry.
Yeah. Chip, go ahead, pal. Let her rip.
Here we go. So as I said, I want to put it out there. I love Alfred Hitchcock. I love his movies. I love the TV show. I do love the classics. Psycho, The Birds, Rear Window is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love The Trouble with Harry, which is, did you guys ever see the comedy that he made in the, I think the early 50s?
Do tell.
It's exactly up his alley. It's a comedy. It's kind of cheesy. It's kind of like that Rodgers and Hammerstein kind of Oklahoma kind of feel, 50s feel, but it's about a small town where somebody finds a corpse and then like 5 different people, it's kind of a farce, I guess. 5 different people find this corpse and try to hide it because they think they're going to get blamed for it. And it's kind of funny and it's adorable. It's not the most hilarious thing in the world, but for the 50s, it's a comedy about a corpse and I love it. So check that out. Let's get to Vertigo though. Vertigo is I want to commend it. It is a beautifully shot film. It is a gorgeous film to watch. The colors are vibrant. The camera work, like we talked about, it was probably groundbreaking at the time. Even just the architecture that you see in of course, the backdrop of San Francisco, plus the that mission that they had. It was just beautiful angles. Everything was set up perfectly. But Vertigo is like the state of Montana. It's extremely beautiful, but it's boring as hell and nothing ever happens. It's too slow. The movie is way too slow. You could cut every scene in half and it would still work. Probably you'd get the gist. And having said that, being too slow, it's way too long. It's 2 hours and 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
The Birds is an hour 59. Rear Window is an hour 52. Psycho is an hour 49. It's just you can cut 20 minutes out of that movie and it would still work, and it would have been much faster, much more fun. Speaking of fun, nobody's likable in this. There's the only likable character is Midge, and she's barely in it, and she disappears 2/3 of the way through the movie. I think at the mental hospital when she just like gets shooed away, and that's it. She's literally the only likable, redeeming character I think in the entire movie. Having said that, do you know how hard it is to make Jimmy Stewart unlikable?
Yeah.
America's own Jimmy Stewart. He's not sympathetic at all. He's this like unlikable old creep. He like you had already said, he even admitted he was miscast. He was way too old. This was the last time, like you said, Hitchcock worked with him. So it was gone from this movie should have been called Mr. Smith Goes to the Funny Farm. I mean, it's just not, that's all it's about. He's just, it's the beloved Jimmy Stewart is unlikable from the beginning to the end of the movie. And of course, zero chemistry between he and Kim Novak. Again, like you said, 24 and 49 years old. It's just creepy. And again, like, it's not even like I can see an age difference. Age difference is fine, but it didn't work at all. So this is one thing that some people may have picked up on. I definitely picked up on. We're comedians here. Vertigo is humorless. There's nothing funny about this movie. And here's the thing about Alfred Hitchcock is hilarious. Alfred Hitchcock is a funny guy. He has that dry sense of humor, that charm. Every other movie's got some humor in it to balance out the heaviness. The Birds has the funny back and forth between them, and there's like the pranks that are being played. Rear Window has some, back and forth between him and Grace Kelly. I don't
and the neighbor too.
The neighbor is great, and all that, like some of the funny stuff that's happening there. There's humor to balance it out. One of my favorite, I think one of the funniest things, and I think it's very underrated. Psycho is hilarious. The scene in the office at her office at the beginning where she steals the money. I don't know if you know, it's her and that other woman. That other girl is Hitchcock's real life daughter, that actress who plays that, and she's hilarious. She has a couple lines in there that are really, really funny. And then, of course, like I said, the trouble with Harry, it's a funny thing. This movie just takes itself way too seriously. There's no humor in it to balance anything out. And then, okay, we know you got to start strong and end strong with a movie. And like most things in art, you got to start strong, you got to end strong. He swings and misses on both of these fronts. The beginning is hokey as hell. That I know it's the 50s, but the effects of him jumping on the roof look super. It's like, even the way it's shot. Like, I get the scene where you're like looking down and you see the guy fall. I'll give him that. But like that first thing when he jumps from one roof to the other, it doesn't even look like he's up on a roof because it's so low.
Yeah. I didn't think he was.
Right,
I thought they were. I thought it was low.
Yeah,
that's why I was like, why is he so concerned?
And it wasn't that crazy of an angle that he'd need to slide down. It's like, dude, you can make that. You know, it's not like at a I don't know, 90-degree angle where you're kind of Tom Cruising it up the thing. No, it's
not at all.
It was a pretty obtuse angle. You could easily make it up there, dude.
Yeah. The only thing that would have redeemed that opening sequence was a couple of dancing chimney sweeps up there. That's the only thing that would have made it better.
Mary Poppins floating an umbrella behind him in the background.
Flies across. That's what I want to see. And then let's talk about the ending. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, you're going to be disappointed. One of the worst endings in cinema history. It just ends. And like, I like a weird, bizarre ending, but this just, it stops and there's no loose ends that are tied up. Where's Midge? Did the husband just get away with it? And he's just traveling through Europe and everybody's just sad at the end. I will say this. I looked it up and you can actually see it on YouTube. The studio or somebody really tried to force Hitchcock to make another ending to tie up some of the loose ends.
Yeah.
There is an alternate ending. I don't know if you guys saw it within Midge's apartment with him and Midge together. It's still kind of a downer, but she's listening to the radio where you hear about that Elster or whatever his name is, the guy, the murderer,
husband,
about how he's probably going to be caught. And then they kind of come together at the end. It's kind of a downer, but at least it ties up loose ends, but then they just cut it. So the end.
So that was filmed?
That was filmed. You can watch it. It's on YouTube. I can see it. It's like, it's only like a minute and a half. But it would have been better than just sitting up there. I get a weird kind of ending, but it's not great.
That's the only scene in this film that is a minute and a half.
Exactly. Any other movie would have been 7 minutes long of nothing happening. I said before that Jimmy Stewart is creepy as hell, but just that whole sequence in the second act where he's obsessed and forcing Judy to look like Madeline, and you got to get the right dress and the shoes and the dye. Even by 1958 Mad Men standards, that's creepy. Like I'm not somebody who like says, oh, like I understand if something was a different time. Oh, people treated women differently back then, and I get that was even creepy for 1958.
The gentleman does know what he likes.
Oh my God! Right?
I got notes on that.
Yes, that was just so creepy. And then gentlemen. That middle section. So the beginning sucks, the end sucks. The middle dream interlude with the little cartoon animated thing and his face and the different colors. The dreams. What is this? Bedknobs and broomsticks? Knock it off.
Oh my God, Bedknobs and broomsticks. Holy shit.
R.I.P. Angela Lansbury.
I would have rather watched that than this. Like, what are you trying to do, Hitch? And again, I'll wrap it up by saying this. It is a beautifully shot film. But it's not a good movie. And I will say this. I saw this thing, I think it was in the last year. Tarantino was interviewed somewhere, and he had mentioned that Jaws is the greatest movie of all time, which, by the way, I agree with. Jaws is hands down my favorite movie of all time. I love it. I couldn't listen to the episode where you gutted Jaws. I just wouldn't be able to stomach it.
Who said, whoa. Who said we did? We just had a guest come on to try and do it.
The royal we. I apologize. Somebody did, not you guys.
Yeah.
But I love that movie so much.
Cox.
Dude, but quick pause for 1 second. Schultz the other day goes, I still won't listen to that episode because I'll get too goddamn mad at that person who hates Jaws. And that and Back to the Future get the most ire that someone had the balls to come after. Those are
the only thing I remember about Delvin's gutting was that he goes, there's no black people. And I was like, you should be happy about that. They would have gotten eaten.
Yeah. It's Martha's Vineyard,
Martha's
Delvin.
Vineyard in the
Not
70s.
exactly a hotbed of black people,
Yeah.
except the Obamas now.
Yeah. But with Tarantino, he said that Jaws was the greatest movie of all time. It's not the greatest film of all time, but it's the greatest movie of all time. Meaning, like, film is, a movie is more blockbuster, mainstream. A film is more like an artsy thing. I will say that I think Vertigo is an excellent film, and I think it's a terrible movie. And finally, having said that, I think that Vertigo is a great falling asleep movie. I'm sure you guys have some of those movies like on the queue, like if you need to fall asleep on the couch or something like that, you put it on. I think it's going to be a great fall asleep movie for me because it's beautiful, it's slow, and it's a complete snooze fest.
Give me a number 1 to 10. Oh, sorry. I'm going to cut you off your last point.
Number 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a solid 4.
4. All right.
4.
That's fair.
Kevin Israel, let her rip.
So look, this is one of those movies that makes me feel like I don't have any place talking about movies because I know I've never seen this movie before. I'm not a Hitchcock guy. I've seen a couple of his movies. It just never does. He never did anything for me. And it just makes me feel like maybe I'm just stupid. But this movie from start to finish is terrible storytelling. It's, in fact, it breaks the main rule of movie storytelling. All it does is tell, it doesn't show. Everything that happens in this movie of significance, you're told. You're told he has acrophobia, and he says it a number of times. Why wouldn't he have taken the opportunity after the cop fell off the roof to show another scene of him in his job after that, unable to do his job? That would have been so much more impactful than him sitting with this random woman who you don't even really know who she is until they tell you who she is, and. It felt almost like a joke. Like, I have the acrophobia, like the diabetes got me again. Like, what do you like? It was so shitty. And then everything else that happens in this movie of significance, you're really just told. You're sort of spoon fed it because it almost feels like he doesn't have the time to show you. And yet this movie is so fucking long. Chip said 20 minutes. I said to my wife, this movie could have been half the length and accomplished the exact same thing in a much more entertaining fashion.
It could have been an Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Right. and yeah,
with cooler music, I might add.
Yes.
And then I watched one of the review of this movie on YouTube because I was like, I must be missing something. And I watched this guy who was a big Hitchcock fan explain it, and he says, the character development in this movie is just, you really get into the character. And I was like, do you? Because again, you're just told everything about the characters. You're told that Scotty was a lawyer, and then he went as a cop. That and by the way, he's rich for some reason that you never really find out why. You don't know anything about his past. You're told that he and Midge used to date were engaged for 3 weeks in college, and you have no idea. Like he references the war, which I guess is World War II, but there's nothing about that. There's no meat to Scotty, and you just don't. And then they introduce his friend, and the one thing I'll say about this movie, there's not many characters. So you're not getting lost in the character list. But then you meet the friend who has that fake 1940s accent that nobody ever actually had except news broadcasters. Hey, Scotty, I gotta come here, and like nobody talk. Like, it's not British, it's not American. It's just your must have money. It's just rich. And,
I was saying Newsboy 1945 is a pretty good call.
Right. And you're told again about their relationship. Then you're told this ridiculous story about his wife that makes no sense. And at that point, I was like, I couldn't remember if Hitchcock ever actually has supernatural elements in his movies. I know a lot of times he references them, but it never pans out. And so when he references, I think she's possessed or whatever, this goes to this thing. And then they go through this whole series of him following around. And there's this whole mystery that they created about this woman who was her grandmother and that she's possessed by her. And the whole thing is so ridiculous and so overly elaborate. They could have gotten to the point where he throws his actual dead wife out the window and Scotty's there. They didn't need to do all of that. That was all misdirection for the audience. It didn't serve the actual story. So as a viewer, I was like, that was all bullshit because it didn't make sense and they didn't need to do it. They could have, all he had to do was fall in love with her. Like, that's all they had to do. She's hot, he's single and lonely and looks like a grandfather. And she's just got her driver's license. Of course he's going to want to bang her. Like, just put her out there and he'll want to, and then he'll follow her up the stairs. That's all they needed to do. All they needed to do was get him to the church, have him run up the stairs, watch the girl fall out. How do we do that? We have to create this ridiculously elaborate plot about how this woman is possessed by the ghost of her grandmother, who she goes to the grave and she stares at the painting and she brings the flowers and then she jumps into the bay for no apparent reason. It's all ridiculous. The whole movie, the whole portion of that movie was horseshit. Then again, he goes into such shock over watching her fall. He goes into depression. I can't remember what they called it. It was some ridiculous diagnosis that sounded like something that was made up.
It was
melancholia.
Like he's sad.
Yeah. I don't know if that was an actual diagnosis back then.
He became
but if I was
Smashing
Midge,
Pumpkins album for a year.
Yeah, it's like he's got this super expectaliodosis, Like, if I was Midge, I would have been like, you know what, we're gonna get another doctor because whatever.
By the way, Melancholia is a terrible film, but Kirsten Dunst gets topless and she has under the radar insanely amazing boobs.
Was that a real movie?
That's an actual movie?
Yes.
Melancholia?
Yeah, it's like 10 years old. It's not good, but
shit.
Go fast forward for all us pervs out there. But I watched it. I go, this stinks.
Mr. Skin. MrSkin.com.
Dude, I mean, I'm watching. This film stinks. She's laying in the moonlight. She takes her shirt off and go, whoa, she's rocking.
Somebody's went from a 4 to a 6.
No, to a 1 to a 3.
And so then he's in the hospital. He can't talk. It looks like he's almost in like a coma or something.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he's just out walking around again. And they don't really explain what cured the situation. He just is, because we got to move the fucking movie along. And so then the actual only part I really liked of the movie, so I think I sort of disagree with Chip, is where he goes crazy about her and starts doing all that fucked up shit. It is creepy, but it's supposed to be creepy. And Jimmy Stewart does a really good job of going from this kind of likable guy to this lech who's just horrible and is just so obsessed with this woman that he's trying to recreate. That was the only part of the movie that I was like, ooh, I finally feel something about this movie. I don't like him and he's an asshole, but I get it. And then she, instead of being like, fuck you, is so, I guess, in love with this guy. And that's the other thing about this movie. This is one of those movies that they just say they're in love. Why? Because he's the star and she's the star and they have to fall in love. There was no chemistry. There was nothing that happened between them that suggested they should have fallen in love. There wasn't 30 seconds of anything where you're like, oh, I can see them falling in love. He just saves her and then it's like, boom, they're in love. That's how love happened in the 50s. Horrible. And
there had to be a magic potion involved too.
Yeah, right. And then you get to the twist. The twist. Oh shit, watch out. They explain the twist to you. You don't see it, you don't figure it out for yourself. She sees it in a flashback, which is just totally explained to you, which is fucking horror, like just weak ass storytelling. At least fucking Sixth Sense, you were like, ooh, I get it. Or if you're Gootee, ooh, I saw that happening.
I did.
But this, they just tell you, and then she explains it. What? That was the twist? You get told the twist, like, fuck you. Like, this is, and they call this the greatest Alfred Hitchcock movie. It's such lazy, shitty, boring storytelling. Like, you could totally see that he had this idea of this Vertigo thing, and then he's like, what are we going to do? It doesn't matter. We're just going to make a movie around it, and it's going to... And then the end, fuck the ending. The ending is just absolute. So they get upstairs and he's yelling at her in that, in that kind of old school kind of like, you did it, huh? Were you happy with him, huh? Was it good for you, huh? And like just yelling, shaking her, because that's all you could do. If you hit a woman, it would have been bad, but you could shake her. And he's shake her. And then suddenly she sees something and she jumps out the window.
The nun made her leap, and I rewound.
But what did
3 times? I don't know either.
But what did she? What was? There was nothing that like I could have gotten if they suggested that it was the ghost of that Colette woman or whatever her name was,
Right.
or something, or that, or they never show who it was. But once they show it was the nun, it was like, what? She jumped out because of and then the nun just says that, oh, that's horrible, whatever she said, and then rings the bell, and then he just stands there. And I was like, since I've never seen this movie before, I was like, I hope he jumps off. Like, I hope this movie ends with him being like, well, I have nothing left to live for. And jumps off, and I would be like,
Romeo and
good.
Juliet, yeah.
Right, fuck everybody. But instead, he just stands there and looks stupid with that stupid pose. And yeah, this whole movie was fucking and the only thing I can say in its defense is that it's an old movie that was clearly revolutionary at its time, and Hitchcock was doing things that people didn't think of doing before a movie. And I get it, it is beautiful, it's a wonderfully shot movie, all that stuff. There's all sorts of, he plays with scale, with the bridge and the trees, I don't
color,
give a
like that.
I don't give a shit about any of that when I see a movie like this.
Yeah.
I want to see good character development. I want to see compelling chemistry, and I want to see a twist that I have to parse out in my head before you lazy explain it to me like I'm an idiot. This movie was hot garbage, and I hated almost every minute of it, other than when Jimmy Stewart went fucking crazy, because he did that well. This movie gets a 2.5.
Oh, wow.
Love it.
These notes probably brought to you by guttingthesacredcow.com. Israel, every time I bring you back on, you hate the film with a burning passion.
Well, that's why I'm glad I didn't pick that. Because I love Animal House, so I'm glad I didn't pick that one.
Yeah. All right, guttingthesacredcow.com. Get a sweet ass shirt like this, if you can see it in the camera, as well as other hats, mugs, bags, whatever. You know the drill. GTSC podcast on Twitter, Gutting the Sacred Cow on TikTok and Instagram. Oh, Gutting the Sacred Cow podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Excuse me. Notes. Every time I watch an old film, I keep remembering, oh, wait, I have to fast forward through 3 minutes of credits at the beginning. Now, if I go to movies, I have to wait 15 minutes of previews before I get to it. I now show up about 5 to 8 minutes before the film starts, i.e., Return of the Jedi just last Friday. I said, I already seen every trailer that I want to see. I don't need to worry about anything now. So let me get this straight. Jimmy Stewart can hang on to a gutter for longer than a cop who's reaching down trying to pull him up while he has his legs, everything else planted. That's how gravity works. Okay. How long would you fellas last for a rooftop chase scene? I say 4 buildings, and then I eat it.
Yeah, I'd get to one ledge and be like, well, maybe he had his reasons for taking those jewels, and then
I mean, unless you're on PCP or just insanely yoked, or do 6 days a week of F45 / Barry's boot camp.
Yeah,
that life's not cut out for us. It looks like.
Instead of parkour, it was parbour.
When a guy faints into a woman's arms, he could immediately cross himself off a list of people that she would bang. When he
How did she catch him?
Once he fell off the ladder, yeah, exactly.
And by the way, that again, Hitchcock being the master of cinematography, it was the worst fall. It didn't make, because he was up on top of a step stool, like he was above her shoulders, and then he falls as if he just tripped real quickly. It was horribly shot.
I've seen heroin addicts fall down the stairs of subway stations with more grace than that. Jimmy Stewart's character would be the last person I would ever go on a vacation with, specifically climbing tall landmarks like the Statue of Liberty or old churches, because every 5 steps it would be an episode. I'd go, Jimmy, shut up and suck it up. If you watch nothing but Hitchcock films, you will think everyone in America is white and impeccably dressed like they're about to go to the Met Gala. Not even extras are cruising around in jeans or flip-flops. Yeah. By the way, and this is actually in the notes, thank you, Hitchcock hated filming on location. He had that scene at the restaurant recreated to a T, to the point where he had the regulars who really did go to the real Ernie's restaurant at Ernie's restaurant. And my point is, There's no way in hell this was filmed in San Francisco because people are not playing hopscotch around piles of human shit. People aren't booting up heroin on street corners, and also no one is stealing out from the open from Whole Foods or CVS. Why are desk clerks so damn helpful in Hitchcock films? They're giving the exact room and the key, and I give you this film and one we just did a month ago, North by Northwest, where the desk clerk damn near walks up and opens the door for them, breaking every single major law of innkeepers across this fair country.
By the way, if I can bring something up too, that was a plot hole that, unless I misread it or something, she obviously goes up into her room. We see her go into that room and open the window. He sees her, so he follows her in and says, that girl, she's up there. And she's like, she hasn't been up there at all. I would have seen her, and her key's right here. So it was as if it was magical and she was a ghost. But how did she not see her? And how did she have the key? And how did she leave without her seeing her?
Big point. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Makes no sense.
10 minutes in, and there are already way too many lingering shots about nothing. You think if she really wanted to commit suicide, she would do it by jumping more off a 3-foot little ledge into the bay? I mean, the goddamn Golden Gate Bridge is known for two things: fog and people committing suicide to the point where they have nets.
And what happened to her? Because she's just floating like unconscious into the water. She fell like 6 feet into the water, and then she's just like laying there.
More like Mr. Chips goes to Megan's Laws list. Thank you. Kim Novak is stunning, by the way, fellas. Let's give credit where credit is due. She is a stunning individual. Creepy Jimmy Stewart asked her back to his place instead of the house or hospital. I fully expected her when he took her out of the bay, when she woke up in his bed instead of the hospital or her house. Here it said, when she wakes up, I expected him to be licking his lips while slowly fondling himself over his pants.
Smelling her feet.
Minute 35, and I wrote, this is really dragging.
Yep.
This movie would be better if during the driving scenes they play it through San Francisco. They played the theme song, The Full House. Then I'd have a few chuckles. I wrote this down. Hitchcock could have easily trimmed down these scenes. My Lord. Who's his editor? Judd Apatow? Mother of God. Jimmy Stewart looks like a less weathered, less fun version of the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket. We had to have them drive out to the Sequoia Forest just so we can hear him wax poetic about his eventual death. And annual rings. Look how cool this is. Oh, what a stretch for nothing. I said this before about North by Northwest, and apparently he hired the same composer. The music is overly intense and unnecessarily overbearing. It was one of those films, and I forgot the other one. God damn. The Many Saints of Newark, to where you think there's something wrong with the channel because the music blasts and drowns everything out. It's like when you're watching TV and the commercials are 5 decibels louder than the actual program. This drowned you out to the point my wife goes, are you going deaf? I go, no. The score.
By the way, I want to give a shout out to Alfred Hitchcock. One of the things I love about the movie The Birds and the score to the movie The Birds, the music in The Birds, there is no music in that movie. It's just the sound of birds. There's not a single piece of music in that movie. It's great.
You know what else did that film and the same exact thing, stole from that idea years later. It is great. A Quiet Place.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And didn't Christopher Nolan's war movie.
Wasn't Dunkirk.
It just the ticking?
The ticking.
Yeah,
of the
wasn't
clock.
it just the ticking? I don't think there was music.
Was that okay?
No. I think that or Interstellar. That was where the clock was. We did that one on this podcast.
Yeah, Interstellar had a clock too, but Dunkirk had this ticking throughout the entire movie.
I think you're thinking of La La Land.
No, we did that.
La La Land.
That was it. That was it.
I rewound at least 5 scenes 3 to 5 times each. You go, what am I missing? I wrote this down 4 or 5 times. What am I missing? I kept tuning out, blanking out. I go, Jesus Christ, rewind another 8 minutes again.
And there was even a point, I don't know if remember it was the end. I think it was in the clock tower, or he was going up the clock tower, and Kim Novak says something to him, and it seems like it's very important. And I rewound it like 5 times, and I could not make
I did too. That final
like,
scene.
I could give it up. And you're like, what?
Yeah,
what
yeah. I said to my wife, I was like, what did you just say?
Yeah. And I rewound it like 5 times. I couldn't get it.
Well, you got to one of my notes later on, but I'll say it now. I said Kim Novak is speaking Sand People Ease from Star Wars films. This film can be summarized as Jimmy Stewart chasing a woman around at least 4 times who is in hysterics. At what point do you say, just let her kill herself? All right, she's just not a happy person. You know,
I said it like 5 times.
Look, listen, just give her fentanyl, let her go to an Insane Clown Posse concert, and let God do his graceful thing and let her die, you know, in a field of meth addicts. Oh, and now it's time for some Alice in Wonderland LSD hallucinations. What a great idea, Mr. Hitchcock. Jimmy Stewart looks like a skinnier Rodney Dangerfield sporting a Mr. Rogers cardigan. His former girlfriend artist is going to the mat for him. He should get her something nice from Zales. You know, that she's showing up the loony bin doing this and that. And he's just like, whatever, your artwork. Okay, good for you, kid. Bully for you. Nothing.
You were pulling for her too. You were really pulling for her.
I mean, I thought they threw a dummy off the roof. That's how fake that looked when she jumped to her death. And I said, this must have been the absolute worst ambulance crew / coroner ever assembled in the history of mankind. Like, well, this patient smells like plastic, but otherwise dead as a doornail. I mean, that looked nothing. I've seen college films. I've made college films that look more realistic than that death.
That was one of the scenes that I rewound. Because when they showed it, I was like, oh, so they threw like a dummy out.
Yes.
And but then they had the corner. I was like, so I rewound it. I was like, oh, that was a real person.
Sorry.
Could you imagine being like those coroners of the ambulance crew, like for like in like 2 years in a row where they have to be like, we got to get that second lady off the roof again. Like it's just
at the convent.
Yeah, another lady got roofed. Like it's a janitor getting a kid's kickball off the elementary school gym.
And what happened if Scotty happened to see the body being carted away?
Yeah,
he would have been like, "That's not the girl I was. That's like not the girl whose feet I was sniffing while she was passed out in my bed."
He didn't even go to the top of the belfry, for Christ's sakes. You'd think if you make that journey all the way up, you would only go, you know what? Another 8 steps. I'm going to see this thing through. Talk about repressing the hell out of her, not letting her pick her own suit. Very Norman Bates-ish. It's funny we're talking about Psycho. Or he might as well just make her look like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface version of Kim Novak. By the way, he is 4 seconds from throwing her into the hole and telling her to put the lotion in the basket or she'll get the hose, right?
Yeah.
There is no free will for this woman. Feminists watch this film now, they're going to lose their shits. At what point does she not grab her stuff while just run away screaming from the convent? Like, why are you dragging me out here? I just wanted to go to dinner, for Christ's sakes, as you promised. Films are supposed to make you feel emotions. Kevin, you talked about the storytelling, emotions, anxiety, horror, adrenaline, laughter. This film made me feel 0 emotions, nothing. I've never rewound a film as many times as I did. I bought this for $5 off Voodoo a while ago. Oh, Vertigo! I think I like that. I think I saw that in film class. By the way, speaking of Vertigo, where in the hell is his Vertigo on the final ascent up? And then when he looks over to see she's dead. Nothing. You're going to tell me he's cured of his vertigo by her killing herself? Nothing else about the vertigo for the last third of the film. What a lazy, garbage ass ending this was. I can't hammer that home enough. Kevin Israel, you already did it just as well. I haven't watched many Hitchcock films recently. I'm with you, Chip. I remember liking a lot of them. The Bird, Psycho. I'm due for a rewatch for a lot of them. I haven't seen Rebecca. Other ones you had mentioned, I haven't seen those either, but I got to go through the filmography and see what I missed. I rewatched Rear Window 6 months ago. Still fantastic. Still liked it a lot. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Great movie. Yep. By the way, The Birds and Psycho just recently got on. Just went on Netflix, because it's funny. I just bought, and it's up here somewhere. I just bought about 2 months ago. I bought a 5-disc of the Hitchcock classics, and it's like the Bird, Psycho, Rear Window, and Vertigo, and I think North by Northwest, and then they came on Netflix. So yeah, Birds and Psycho, you can watch very easily on Netflix right now.
Right. But the other ones, man, those 2 recent ones, North by Northwest, we've done this podcast, and now this, man, I went through all these reviews and I said, what am I missing? What am I missing? Why people are throwing themselves off of a church belfry for this film? This film stunk. I can't believe it. I thought, oh, this is going to be a good one. I'll enjoy it. 2.5 out of 10, Kevin Israel. You stole it right out from under me. Boy, we're going to get yelled at from everybody, but I can't see this. I tried. Bring it on is right. I don't get it. Not at all. This is Hitchcock, man, is one of those guys. Everyone's, oh, I love Hitchcock. I love Hitchcock. But now, man, there is some North by Northwest in this last one. Boy, oh boy, man. I think it's like, you know what? Maybe the termites got in here and the foundation is rotted, kids, and we're due for to see if the Emperor really doesn't have any clothes. Well, get ready for just a ton of metaphorical hand jobs. Critics' 5-star reviews. It's a product of its time, parentheses, especially when it comes to the treatment of female characters. By the way, that is a common theme with these reviews, female character treatment. And it's not just trying to be a thriller. Rather, it's a story about a doomed romance that turns into a dangerous obsession, which I didn't care about.
Not at all.
This lated Alfred Hitchcock thrillerama offers further evidence of his mastery in mystery and suspense, for, despite its flaws, it grips one's attention from start to finish. Oh, no, it did not.
No, it 100% didn't.
How many, I mean, combined of all 3 of us, I'm going to assume over under 22.5 times we all rewound scenes combined.
And both of those 5-star reviews, I think, said all the things that we disagree with. And I don't think either of those reviews said anything about the cinematography or how beautiful it is, because I think we could all agree it is a beautiful movie, and it was great, but they're not even they're missing that point too.
Hitchcock is often spoken about regarding his perfectionism. This way, every shot is carefully arranged and the edits hit like a knife. That's no less true here. Wow, edits like with a butter knife. Kill you.
The shots were clearly painstakingly arranged, but then they were just lingered way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact muddled at best.
Yeah.
If the cinema was Hitchcock's church, this film was his confession. What does that even mean? I want to throw this critic out of the church belfry along with Kim Novak's blatantly obvious dummy. Thank you. Critics trying to be funny, stop it. Critics 1-star reviews. At the risk of sounding slow-witted, well, I mean, that's 4 of us here, fella or gal, I must complain that Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo was a little too difficult for me. The plot is a brilliant box of devilish tricks, and yet the film disappoints. It seems too long, too elaborately designed. The narration of this kind of criminal intrigue sags under such luscious treatment. It needs the touch of the harsh and the squalid. What are you trying to say?
And this person is even giving it too much credit. They said at the beginning, it's like, I didn't understand it, or it was too smart for me. It's like, it's not too, you didn't miss anything.
Even such a master craftsman as director Alfred Hitchcock sometimes forgets that more than enough is too much, as he proves in the photogenic San Francisco suspense mystery, which is still badly in need of the cutter's shears.
Agreed.
Definitely.
The storytelling isn't up to much. It drags and drags. Yahtzee. Amazon 5-star reviews.
Oh, these are going to be painful.
Now, you say they're painful. I'm the one who has to cull through these, Kevin Israel.
Heavy as the head.
Yeah, you're exactly right. If you ever lost the one and only love of your life, the person you know you were meant to be with, you will understand this movie. Put aside your thoughts of how fast or slowly a movie should go and simply sit back and watch it. Allow yourself the time to feel what you are seeing on the screen. I love this movie. It gives us an insight into the feelings of Alfred Hitchcock and explains why he was always looking for the perfect blonde woman. Guys, if Hitchcock's mom wasn't blonde, that would shock the hell out of me. And I wonder if she also wore a gray suit all the time as well.
It's uncanny how that just happens constantly. Yeah.
Get ready for a laugher. Those people who do not like Vertigo state that it is not realistic and too improbable. That's just the point. Vertigo is about an artificial world and the fascination of that world. Those who like Vertigo are drawn to it over and over because it is something that is inside each of us that is ever so fleeting and will always remain unobtainable.
Yeah, that imaginary world of San Francisco, California.
Vertigo and North by Northwest are the first movies I remember seeing that featured black extras in the background. Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. You made my day.
Stop it. Stop. Come on.
Kid you not. And
Come on.
The guy who wrote it on Amazon, it's a black guy who wrote that. And I make fun of it because I said again in the North by Northwest episode, you don't see him for about 45 minutes until the train car. So he's not exactly doing favors for black people out there, guys and girls. So let's not go, as the great Winston Wolfe in Pulp Fiction said, let's not go sucking each other's dicks quite yet. The story, on the other hand, is what was getting on my nerves. Stewart's character is a little too preoccupied for my tastes. When he is trying to recreate her, if I was Novak's character, I would have told him to jump in the lake. That would have saved her the trouble she had at the very end. Well, guys, she did jump in the bay, and see where that got her? Mm-hmm. Amazon 1-star reviews. What a waste of time watching Kim Novak and grandfather H. Stewart following each other around Frisco with no one else apparently in town. Ain't that the truth? The nauseating tedium is the only suspense of this film, as in, when are we going to see a plot line? Even Hitchcock can't make a poor script and storyline into a film worth watching.
I like it.
I have Vertigo, doctor certified. When I saw this was available, I decided to see how other people react. This was one of the worst movies I have ever seen. Think about wasting your money before watching it. Isn't it great when people use their own medical experience as validation? Does that mean I can write reviews as a 46-year-old with about 5 to 10 pounds to lose, I found that American Beauty hits home, except for banging that high school girl and kissing my male next door neighbor.
I know we're done with the gutting portion of this, but I just need to go back and say,
go ahead,
that Vertigo and acrophobia played almost no part in this movie.
No,
like, there was no, and zero. when I went into watching it, I had no idea what the movie's about. I had absolutely no idea, and I, for some reason in my head, made it up that it was about a guy trapped on a ledge, and the whole movie is about him suffering, like realizing that he has to survive, but he's terrified the whole time. Because of this design, I always thought that's what it was about, and he keeps looking down and seeing that. I thought the whole movie was supposed to build you, like make you feel his fear.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is going to be, it had nothing, literally nothing. He could have been a fear. It could have been a fear of anything. Could have been a fear of water, of spiders, of
dolphins,
anything. Yeah. Like literally the fear had nothing to do. Sorry. All right. Sorry.
And it's also, he had to retire as a police officer, as a detective, because he couldn't deal with heights anymore. You know how police officers are always climbing up on roofs all the time.
It's those jetpacks. It's the jetpacks that are the problem. He
couldn't go on desk duty at all. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Tediously paced, nice but poorly executed bait and switch, unbelievably disappointing sudden full stop ending. You're right. He looks over the edge. The end. Black. Eat shit.
I would have loved it gone to black, and as it's going to black, he just turns to the nun. It's like, so is there a good place to get a sandwich around here? Like he just moves on.
You want to go check out the forest with me?
Yeah.
He goes, hated it. Watch Rear Window instead. Same slow pace, but at least the payoff is there at the end. Next one. No matter how cleverly Alfred Hitchcock twists, turns, mutilates, powders, perfumes, and beautifies this horror of a story into a psychological murder mystery romance, it's still a snake with lipstick on. It goes up several notches on the horror scale when Novak's two characters separately fall in love with a gangly geezer. You would cringe every time they kissed.
Gangly geezer. Gangly Geezer would be a great name
Gangly
for a
Geezer, that's-
band.
Love
Yeah.
alliteration. You know that.
Mhm.
The final insult is when the film tries to show us the Stewart character is actually an innocent victim. Oh, please. Sorry, I've never really liked romantic cradle robbing adultery, even when dressed up as a psychological murder mystery. The San Fran location et al. Are a sacrilege. Signed, Summer Redstone.
Oh, Summer, you got it. You nailed it, Summer.
Kevin Israel, did Chip Chantry gut that sacred cow?
You know, I like when guests come on here and they have a very methodical, very well thought out execution of the gutting. He didn't get overly angry. He didn't get, because I did, and I really respected Chip's approach, and he absolutely did gut this movie. I 100% agree with everything he said.
I have
Thank
to
you,
read,
sir.
and I agree. This is an easy gutting. I think, again, credit to Chip as well. But this film, you know what? It had the pulse of a dummy being thrown out of a belfry for me. How about that? So
It did. It
wasn't-
100% did.
it wasn't much. I will, Kevin. I've never seen you. There are several films that have made you this angry. Breakfast at Tiffany's, this of course, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I love
Because when you
seeing
go
the-
into
this
these
stuff.
movies that are so lauded and so loved, and then it turns out, and all three of those movies you just mentioned, by the way, I'd never seen until this fucking podcast. And I go in each one thinking, oh, this is going to be an experience, and they all sucked. And it makes me that much angrier because I've avoided these movies my whole life, and then when I finally watch them, they're shit. So yeah, it makes me angry.
I think that's what it makes me angry too. It's not that it's there are worse movies than Vertigo out there, definitely.
Oh yeah,
but,
definitely.
But why is this held up so high?
Because it's Hitchcock and no one can dare besmirch his name. That's why.
It's just it just doesn't make any sense.
The Emperor wears no clothes. Kevin Gootee thanking my buddy Kevin Israel, sitting in on another one. And Chip Chantry, this was a joy. We're gonna have you back. I like you. I like to cut your
anytime.
Cut your
This was so much fun. This was great. Thanks for having me.
We'll see everybody next time. Take care.